So we're going to be in section 3 of chapter 3. Just adjusting this camera. And we're going to discuss basically the makeup of the U.S. Constitution, the preamble, and then we're going to examine the different parts of the Constitution. It's a good source of how the government should be ran, but at the same time, it's flexible enough to adapt to future changes. And it's the highest authority in the land. There's nothing that's above the U.S. Constitution. The president's not, Congress isn't, the Supreme Court's not, movie stars aren't, cops aren't, no one's above the U.S. Constitution. The Constitution has 3 main parts, which are the preamble, the 7 articles, and the 27 amendments. And we're going to break that down a little bit today. The first one is the preamble. The preamble tells why the Constitution is written. These words make clear that the power comes from the people. And the middle part states the 6 purposes of government. So the preamble is the introduction. It tells why the Constitution is written. So let's break this down a little bit. Now, the 6 purposes of the government I have highlighted in different colors. So let's look at the preamble together. It says, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." That's the preamble of the Constitution. It's an introduction. You see "we the people" everywhere. "We the people" is part of the preamble. Now, the 6 purposes of government as established by the preamble are, starting with this one, to form a more perfect union, or to establish a better form of government, to establish justice, or the legal order of the way things should be done, ensure domestic tranquility, or make sure that things here in the United States, domestic means home, so ensure that things here in the United States go smoothly, provide for the common defense, which means provide a military, provide protection for the people, the law, all that kind of stuff, to promote the general welfare, or promote the happiness, the well-being of the people, and should secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Liberty just means freedom, so it means secure freedom to ourselves, our children, and the people that comes after them. And we do ordain this as the Constitution of the United States of America. What I love is that, and this should be highlighted in with the green, but what I love is if you look at the stuff that's still in black, the beginning and the end, it tells you the main purpose. We the people of the United States ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. Basically saying we the people are the ones that give the Constitution its ability. And that's basically what it is. Next is the 7 articles. The 7 articles that follow the preamble explain how the government works. The first 3 describe the powers and responsibilities of each branch of government. The remaining articles address more general matters. So, what we have is the first 3 establishes and gives power to the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. The remaining deals with things like how to make the Constitution official, how to add states, things like that. Article 1, the legislative branch. The framers of the Constitution intended for the legislative branch to take a leading role in government. Article 1 says that Congress will be made up of 2 parts, the Senate and the House of Representatives, and would have all lawmaking authority. So the first article establishes Congress as a leading role in government, and that it would have 2 houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives, and that they will be the ones that make all of the law. So the idea behind it is that it gives Congress the power. It says that Congress can collect taxes, regulate foreign and interstate trade, make money, declare war. They cannot tax exports, or they can't favor one state or another. So there's limitations on what Congress can do. The second is the establishment of the executive branch. Article 2 calls for the executive branch to be the law-enforcing branch. It means it enforces the law. It's the reason why the executive branch is over the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, the military, the Border Patrol, all these things is because it is the law enforcing branch. This will be headed up by the president and vice president. And Article 2 states that the executive branch has the power to command the armed forces, deal with leaders of other countries, and appoint certain government officials. So the president and vice president's job is to make sure the laws are being enforced. The legislative branch makes the laws, the executive branch enforces the laws. And that brings us to the final one, Article 3, the judicial branch. States that the judicial branch is responsible for the interpretation of the law and calls for one Supreme Court. Now we have the Supreme Court today. It's made up of 9 members, and the purpose of it is basically to interpret the law. And the Supreme Court's main thing is to interpret constitutional law. The Supreme Court sees constitutional related cases. They're not going to deal with, your neighbor stole your other neighbor's lawnmower. They're going to deal with constitutional things such as Roe versus Wade, Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, and issues that deal with constitutional rights. It states that the judicial branch has the power to hear cases that involve the Constitution, as I just said, federal laws, treaties, and disputes between states. And that's the purpose of what the judicial branch does. Articles 4 through 7, this is what they do. Article 4 shifts the focus to the states, stating that each state, and that's supposed to say must respect each other's laws, court decisions, and records. It also discusses the way to make new states. So it basically says the states have to respect each other and they have to be on the same page. Because, as we talked about before, when the colonies first became states, they were united, but they had their own laws and their own plans and their own ideas, and this kind of helps unite them together. And about creating new states, because there's going to be 13 to start off with. There's 50 now, so we've had 37 states added since the original 13. And so they had to make up rules about how to do that. Article 5 discusses how amendments will be to be made in the case of future things. It just basically legalizes the idea of making amendments. Article 6 states the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. No state or court decision can ever overrule the Constitution. And Article 7 dealt with practical matters such as making it official that when 9 states vote to ratify the Constitution, it'll go into effect. So 4 it talks about how to make new states and they got to respect each other. 5 discusses how amendments are going to be added. 6 establishes the supreme law of the land. And 7 establishes how it's going to become official. The Constitution has been amended 27 times. An amendment is any change in the Constitution. As I told you before, the word amend just means to change. So anytime you see the word amendment or amend, it means something's been changed. And the Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments. And we'll get into that in Chapter 4, what those are. The Bill of Rights was added in 1791, and a number of Americans deal with the way the government works, such as the 16th Amendment to allow Congress to collect an income tax, which is a tax on people's earnings. It's the reason why people go and file taxes this time of year. It's in January, February, March, April, people file taxes based on what they earn and things like that. So an income tax is a tax on people's earnings. This is the 27 amendments. We're not going to get into all this. If you'll go back and look at it on the slides, you're welcome to do so. The Bill of Rights, and then it starts in here, the abolition of slavery, citizenship, the right for African American men to vote, income tax, election of senators, prohibition of alcohol, women's right to vote, repeal of prohibition, limit on presidential terms, different things like that. So there's a lot of them. The amendment process is very hard to do, though. So although thousands of amendments have been suggested, only 27 have been added. They made it hard to do because they don't want it to be changed all the time. It's important to have the ability to amend the Constitution, but not to cheapen it by adding 10,000 amendments. If the Constitution wasn't able to be amended, African Americans, women, and other groups would have been oppressed. The steps are proposal and ratification. So you propose an amendment, and then it has to be ratified or approved through a vote. Once a national amendment has been proposed, it takes 3/4 of the state to amend it. So you need 3/4 support in order to amend it. So you're going to have more than just political parties and things like that to get it done. And like I said, if it wasn't for this, African Americans, it wouldn't have ended slavery. It wouldn't have given the rights to citizens. It wouldn't have given the right to vote. Women wouldn't have the right to vote. So, and we'll get into a lot of stuff in Chapter 4, but it's very important that you can amend the Constitution. Article 1 lists the powers of Congress. They are allowed to make laws which should be necessary and proper. Some people believe that Congress should be given freedom in this. Some people believe it in a strict view. They should be able to make laws in whatever they want to, as long as there's a reason for it. Don't just because they just want to make a law. There needs to be a necessary and proper way for them to do this. Some people believe there need to be strict regulations. Some believes it needs to just they need to be able to have the liberty to do whatever they want to. The Supreme Court has the final authority on interpreting the Constitution, and sometimes the Supreme Court rules in a way that people will question. Sometimes it's obvious. They have the power to make major changes in the United States on religious matters, social matters, and other issues that affect all Americans, such as an example of legalizing abortion through Roe v. Wade, ending segregation in Brown v. Board of Education in Topeka, taking prayer out of the school system, more recent with legalizing same-sex marriage, things like that can make huge changes in the way that this country is ran. Actions taken by Congress and the President also cause new interpretations of the Constitution. The Constitution allows the House of Representatives to impeach or accuse federal officials while the Senate determines their guilt or innocence. And that's what we see with the impeachments of Donald Trump, where the House of Representatives brought the charges of impeachment and the Senate actually works as a trial to hear the case. In 1841, when William Henry Harrison died in office, the Constitution didn't have a succession plan, so John Tyler took the presidency. And it wasn't until 1967 and the 25th Amendment that made this officially a part of the Constitution. So when William Henry Harrison got sick and died, John Tyler just took over, and in 1967, officially a constitutional amendment was made with the 25th Amendment that discusses presidential succession. The interpretation has changed also through customs, such as the rise of political parties, which the Constitution does not mention. The government today is a lot different than it was when the Constitution was really set up, and it will continue to change. And the basic structure of our government, however, does not change. So our government doesn't change, but this amendment process allows for there to be changes when there's things that need to be changed in the Constitution, like getting rid of slavery and allowing women to vote and things like that. And this brings us to the end of Section 3 of Chapter 3.